6 News proudly presents Remarkable Women.
Hello, I'm Sherry Jones, and I'd like to thank you for joining us for one of my favorite specials of the year. It's time we devote to telling the stories of the remarkable women who, through their words and deeds, make Mid-Michigan a better place to be. And we're going to start our show with a capital city icon. If you spend any time in Lansing, then you might recognize her as the lady with the hat. But Elfrieda Schmidt is known not just for her impeccable style, but for her servant heart. In fact, some refer to her as Lansing royalty. At the distinguished age of 96, she marches on as a community advocate, serving others and making a difference in the place she calls home.
I feel well, I feel healthy, I feel thankful to the Lord, and I feel thankful for my friends.
A grateful heart. That's how Elfrieda Schmidt approaches every day. Growing up on the family farm in Dansville, she learned the value of hard work, and later as a young woman, the reward of serving others. As a community activist who worked tirelessly for more than a decade on the Lansing City Council representing the South Side, it was her mantra to never do anything alone. And to do the right thing, you must do what's helpful to others.
It's necessary from a person's life, I feel, is to share and remind people that there are others that cannot do that, because I can still physically do that. My hands work, my eyes work, my mouth works.
Her goal has always been to improve the world around her, and over the years, she accomplished that at both the city and county levels by bringing people together to make change happen. One of her biggest accomplishments was the Hawk Island community-built playground. Elfrieda was the driving force behind raising hundreds of thousands of dollars and organizing 2,000 volunteers over 7 days, in the rain no less, to make the playground in the South Lansing Park a reality.
We had to find people to come, and they could not be paid. And you bring your chores, bring your equipment, bring your car, bring your shovel, bring your wife, bring your children. I don't care what it was. We had to finish that arrangement for that playground. And you know, ladies and gentlemen, we did.
This tireless leader also has a huge heart for veterans. Even now, she's leading the effort to secure a significant sign that reads Little Arlington at the entrance of the Veterans Memorial Plot in Lansing's Evergreen Cemetery.
It's a monument that wants to be identified for the veteran, and any veteran that would be available and capable and buried in that cemetery is under that code.
Michelle Fickus nominated Elfrieda to be recognized as our remarkable woman, and she listed many reasons why, including how she connects with veterans.
She inspires them and she thanks them just endlessly, and so she is definitely what we would, as a veteran, would say, a rock star in the veteran community. And
she's always done everything with a sense of style. When we think of Elfrieda, we just, the lady with the hats.
I would say her hats are her trademark, and she has such stunning fashion sense and with such grace and dignity. Very proud of what she's accomplished and what she's doing today and what she's going to do in the future.
I know we're all looking forward to that. Now, believe it or not, at the age of 96, Elfrieda Schmidt is still the second oldest honoree in our Remarkable Woman series this year, and that's because of a woman in Ingham County's Wheatfield Township who almost literally defines the word volunteer. 99-year-old Violet Lentz has dedicated decades of her life to serving others. Siobhan Klepfer tells us all about this hometown hero.
What do you say to people who say, Violet, you are remarkable?
I say, I don't think I am any different than anybody else. I just like to keep busy.
She calls it keeping busy, but for folks in Williamston and Wheatfield Township, Violet Lentz has done so much more than that. She's been helping out in her community in some way, shape, or form for nearly 90 years.
When we were kids, Williamston was our playground. We could go to any store and walk in and they'd say, would you like to work a little while?
Money was tight growing up in a family of 6 kids, and knowing the value of hard work and working together, it wasn't long before Violet added volunteering to her resume. Her efforts really ramped up in 1949. She got married to her late husband Harold, started working on their family farm, and also donated her time and talents to Wheatfield Township.
I've worked under 4 supervisors, 7 clerks, and 5 treasurers.
She's particularly known around these parts for her election work, opening and closing the polls the same way for more than 75 years.
And I just would holler, hear ye, the polls are now open. And then at night I'd, hear ye, the polls are now closed.
That did not change, but a lot did over those 7 decades.
So I've gone through paper votes. We used to have big machines with screens on them that you'd have to pull. Then you'd have to get all the votings down. And I've ruined more clothes with those old carbon sheets. But now they've got the electronic books, and it's a godsend.
And for many people here, so is she. For decades, Violet also helped out at the Ingham County Medical Care Facility and even established its pet therapy program.
I spent 42 years there, and would bring in cats and dogs and pigs, lambs, miniature horses, baby chicks, anything I could get my hands on. We just go around the room and pass these things around and let them hug them.
For more than 70 years, Violet also embraced the work at the township's 3 cemeteries. She did everything from mow the lawn to tending to flowers to tidying up, repairing headstones, and even added American flags to veterans' graves. Her husband was a veteran, and that brought about yet another volunteering effort with the American Legion Auxiliary for more than 60 years. I'd say Violet Lentz kept more than busy serving her community all of these years. When I asked her why, her answer was simple.
The people in Wheatfield are family.
And for Violet, family comes first.
Thank you, Siobhan. And now you've met half of this year's crop of remarkable women. And when we come back, we'll introduce you to the 3rd member of our final 4, who takes care of the community's kids at Christmas and the rest of the community all year round. Stay tuned. Our look at Mid-Michigan's remarkable women will return after this. Welcome back. Our next remarkable woman is perhaps best known for making spirits bright by helping to ensure that hundreds of kids have a Merry Christmas. But as Luke Snyder shows us, this remarkable Jackson woman works hard to serve her community all year round.
The words, "Together we can make a difference," are stitched across the sweater of Wendy White. For her, it's more than a motto. It's a calling for a community to come together.
It is so not about Wendy White. It is just about people that God brings to the table, and everybody can do something.
That something takes place every month right here at the Mini Maxi Laundry in Jackson. Her mission, to help wash the clothes of people in need for free.
A lot of the folks that need laundry service don't have a way to do their laundry in their home, and so we also have a wonderful volunteer group that likes this project, and so they'll go into people's homes and get them and their laundry and bring them right here.
She's been doing this for nearly 2 decades, with dozens of volunteers coming on board to help. People like Diane Tracy, who says White's love to help people has no end.
And she's always available for help. I mean, she takes phone calls probably, well, one lady called at 3 o'clock this morning wanting her laundry done. She's one of the kindest people I've ever met.
But for White, her journey to give back started after a dark season in her life almost 20 years ago. She had just been laid off, then she says God spoke to her.
I don't have to worry about what I don't have, just do all that I can with what I do have.
What she had was a willingness to love others, a simple action that she says helped this organization grow to where it is today, finding purpose despite life's sometimes uncertainties.
If I was missing any of those pieces, the painful parts or the good parts, I wouldn't have been able to do what I'm doing now.
It's a passion that extends further than she could have ever imagined. Last holiday, she helped give thousands of families Christmas gifts through what is known as the Priceless Gift Store.
We got to serve 3,850 kiddos, and the really cool part was we had 1,314 signatures in our volunteer book.
White says being named a remarkable woman is humbling and a bit embarrassing. She doesn't want this to be about her, but of all the people coming together to take care of people when they need it most.
Abundant life is figuring out what you can do to be of service in your community and to the person next to you that might be hurting. And it's so much more fun to give than receive. I mean, the happiest people that I know are the people that volunteer with us, because it just gives life such purpose.
A purpose she knows will continue to make an impact.
Extend that love to absolutely everybody breathing and let them know that they're so invited into this family.
Here for you in Jackson, Luke Snyder, 6 News.
Thank you so much, Luke. Well, before we meet this year's Remarkable Woman finalists, we're going to take a quick trip back into time and revisit the women we honored last year. So stay tuned for that. We'll have more stories about Mid-Michigan's remarkable women when we come back. Welcome back. 6 News has been profiling remarkable women in our community for years now. But before we continue our tribute to this year's honorees, we thought we'd catch you up on the women we celebrated last year. We start with a woman who was constantly kicked out of school, dropped out of high school, and then ended up homeless. But Anastasia Trevino turned her life around. She started her own salon and spa, then went back to the school she dropped out of, serving as a mentor to young people who needed some extra love and attention, and the lessons she learned firsthand.
Coming from that, the homelessness and all the things that I went through in between, being here now, I felt like it was purposeful. I love who I've grown into, and all of the lessons I've learned in these journeys definitely has shown me more and more like my true self.
Then there's Virginia Hannes, a woman who worked as a nurse for more than 50 years, but her caring did not end with her patients. She taught CPR and first aid, and she's helped out with the Silver Bells in the City Parade. She's also worked with Special Olympics for more than 30 years as a medical care coordinator. But she's very humble when it comes to recognizing her for all she's done.
And felt very not worthy, I think, sometimes. Because I always say that most women are remarkable women who have children and husbands and work or whatever they do. It's always, I think most women are remarkable.
And then there's Eowyn Boyd, a Jackson woman who is the very definition of the word service. Besides her roles as a mother and wife, Eowyn Boyd is also a nurse. It's a job that runs in the family. She's following in the footsteps of both her grandmothers, as well as her mom, her aunt, and her uncle. But besides helping people as a nurse, she's also served our country, enlisting 2 days before her 35th birthday. And that's how she followed in the footsteps of her grandfather, who fought in World War II.
I have a lot of good role models in my family. I have strong leaders who just work through everything. So my grandparents, my parents, my aunts and uncles, everyone that surrounded me was always striving to achieve more.
Boyd is no longer on active duty, but she tells us she would love to keep serving by working with her fellow veterans. And finally, we highlighted a woman who has worn a lot of hats in her effort to help protect the most vulnerable people in the capital city. It's time now to reintroduce you to last year's winner, Jan Bidwell.
Meet the multi-talented and remarkable Jan Bidwell. She's a mother, an author, a bass player, an ordained minister, and the Lansing Police Department's first and only social worker, a position she's held for 3 years amidst a 40-year career that she's always been passionate about. Even with decades of knowledge and training, Jan says nothing could have prepared her for the trauma she saw day in and day out as LPD's social worker.
I've seen things that I never could have imagined before, and I've worked in tough areas and tough populations. But we have no services for them. We have nothing for them. They shuttle in between law enforcement and community mental health. It's a tremendous amount of suffering that you're watching, and you do the best you can.
It was her job to talk with the citizens of Lansing who came into contact with law enforcement about their problems, including homelessness, substance addiction, mental illness, and trauma. Oftentimes, she would go to hospitals, jail, people's homes, and onto the streets to interact with the homeless.
Parts of my childhood were very difficult, were very painful, and people helped me through. right? So I feel an obligation to help people as well.
Jen also makes serving her community a priority. She volunteers on the Ingham County Opioid Abuse Prevention Initiative, the Ingham County Board of Health, and the Lansing Mayor's Mental Health Task Force.
I know people, I've worked with people over time who had nothing to feel grateful about, and they were very unhappy. So I'm grateful internally that I'm able to feel a sense of gratitude for all the gifts, because I've been given tremendous gifts in my life. To be a part of the solution, to be a part of the answer in any community that I'm in really lifts me up.
Jan's husband, James, says she's a role model for anyone considering a career in social work. So when asked what advice she would have for a younger version of herself,
you're good enough. Your desire to do the next right thing is enough. That's the best for you right now. And if you don't succeed at that, then you know that that's not your path. It'll lead you somewhere else. I think as women sometimes we think we have to live up to an outer standard that's just unrealistic. We all have strengths. Look at yourself and honor that strength in you, and then feel grateful for it. It's a blessing.
It's wonderful to hear from Jan again. So coming up, we're going to introduce you to another group of remarkable women. Now, while the state used to be run by a boys' club, women now run all 3 branches of government, and we're going to introduce you to them when Remarkable Women returns. For decades, the Michigan Capitol and the buildings surrounding it was pretty much a boys' club. Michigan was founded in 1837, but we didn't elect a woman to the state Supreme Court until 1972, and the governor's office until 2003. And there's still never been a female Speaker of the House. But now women are well represented in all 3 branches of government. We start, of course, with the woman at the top, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Whitmer was reelected last year and sworn into office for a second time this year. She's the second woman to lead Michigan. Whitmer wasn't the only woman to get reelected to statewide office last year. Michigan voters also chose Dana Nessel to serve a second term as Michigan Attorney General. And rounding out the trio at the top is Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson. Benson was also reelected to her second term last year. She also chairs Michigan's Task Force on Women in Sports. And while there hasn't been a female speaker, there is a woman at the top of the legislative branch. Winnie Briggs took over this year as the Senate Majority Leader. She's helping her party push their priorities through the Capitol. And then there's Michigan's judicial branch. Not only is the Michigan Supreme Court run by a woman and Chief Justice Elizabeth Clement, but a majority of the court, 4 out of 7 members, are women. Along with Clement are Megan Kavanaugh, Elizabeth Welch, and the newest member of the court, Justice Kyra Harris Bolden. She is the first Black woman on the court, and she appreciates why her presence on the bench is so very important.
Representation truly matters, because what I like to say is, it's really hard to be what you cannot see, but once you can see it, you can achieve it. I try not to cry every time because I know how much this means to so many people.
And when we come back, the moment you've been waiting for, you've met the 3 finalists. But when we return, we'll introduce you to Mid-Michigan's Remarkable Woman for 2023 and share her remarkable story. Don't go away. Now we'd like to introduce you to this year's winner of our Remarkable Women series. And like all of our honorees, she has worked to make our community a better place. Unlike many of our honorees, her help is rooted in her personal experience with heartbreak and horror. Shamir Owens has the story of Tanisha Ash Shakur.
I know what it's like to feel like you're looking death in the face and you survive those moments.
Tanisha Ash Shakur, a survivor who has overcome staggering darkness in her life. During her undergrad years of college, Ash Shakur met and pursued a relationship with a man she thought was a good fit for her, until she found out he was the complete opposite.
He became very jealous about where I would go, how long it would take me to be somewhere. Went through all the stages of abuse, from the mental, emotional, physical, and to the point where I was raped by my abuser.
Ash Shakur says her attacker held her in a room for hours as he called his family members to tell them that he was going to kill her.
I was just going to be leaving the world with no one ever having known what I was going through.
She says this experience changed her life in unimaginable ways, but that her faith kept her going.
I certainly know that there was more purpose for me.
Purpose indeed. After graduating from law school in 2015, Ashakur began her mission to help people on a path she once traveled.
I never wanted anyone to feel like in those moments they couldn't call someone. I want people to know that there is life after. There's love after.
That's why she started the nonprofit Voices of Color, to ensure that victims of domestic violence receive the services they needed.
Our mission is to serve them as they come to us, as unique as the case may be. So what that looks like is showing up to court for court cases. We also attend CPS referee hearings. We are training to be expert witnesses in the courtroom when it comes to custody cases or parenting time, shared parenting time, assisting attorneys with that so they better understand adverse childhood experiences. We walk with them hand in hand from the beginning of their process to the end of their process.
And for the past 4 years, the group has hosted the State of Michigan Domestic Violence Rally to educate and emphasize that domestic violence does not discriminate. On top of running her organization, Ashakur is a wife and mother of 3, pastor and first lady of Walking with Christ Worship Center and Ministries, and an active member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated.
I'm in awe. I still haven't completely absorb the idea of someone saying, "You're a remarkable woman." The women and men that I serve, they are remarkable. I am just a vessel.
Here for you in Lansing, Shamir Owen, 6 News.
Congratulations, Tanisha. And as our winner, WLNS donated $1,000 to Voices of Color. Thanks so much for joining us and for our celebration of Mid-Michigan's remarkable women.